be starting installing all of the suction tubing now. There's different tubing and different fittings used for each one, so pay attention as we go through each type of pumper. We'll start with our P1 pump, which uses clear tubing and a small barb connector. You'll want to install the tubing on the suction fitting on the underside, which has a tube nut just like this. We're now going to cut our suction tube to length. You want to leave yourself some slack in this tube. I have a barrel for reference here. We want to make sure that it can hit the bottom of the barrel and leave some extra slack in there so we can move this barrel around. You have plenty of tubing, so try to use up as much of it as possible. Okay, our tubing is cut to length. One trick for weighing the tubing down in your stock solutions is to cut a 4-inch or 10 centimeter section of 1-inch pipe or equivalent. Slide that over the tubing and then place the barb suction strainer. Make sure that it's a small barb, not the larger barbs that are used with the H4 pumpers. Press that into the tubing, and now that's a secure connection. And our small piece of PVC tubing can rest right like that on the bottom of the tubing, and this will weigh the suction strainer down into the solution so that it doesn't float up to the top and end up sucking air in through this suction strainer. And now simply place the suction strainer into your stock solution, whether it's a large barrel like this or a small container, doesn't really matter. Okay, we're ready to do the next one. Moving on to H4 pumps, we're going to use the large braided clear line that comes with the kit, as well as the larger barb suction strainers. Those are going to install on the back of the H4 pumps, back here on the barb. First, we'll install our hose clamp over the tubing, and then slide the tubing all the way up to the bottom of this fitting. Place your hose clamp about halfway and use a driver to tighten it down. Same process as before. We're going to cut this to length with a little bit of slack so that you can move your barrels around. Slide a section of PVC pipe over the tubing, and finally insert the foot valve, suction valve onto the barb. Then you can place that into your stock tank like so. Now we'll continue installing the rest of the H4, P1, and P2 tubings. The last injector we're going to install the tubing on is our A3. This one is a little bit different than all the others. It'll consist of a suction wand that comes in various different parts. First step of setting this up is to thread the tube nut fitting onto the top of one of the wand pieces. And just a few turns on this is perfect. Even hand tightening this can cause this fitting to crack because these are tapered threads. So you just need a few turns on it. As soon as it starts to get tight in your hand, let off and you're done. Next, we'll install the coupler. This part is not needed if you'll be using a barrel that's approximately this height. If you have taller barrels like we're using, you'll use this coupler to make the wand longer and easier to get in the barrel and use. So again, a few turns on that, really doesn't need much. And you should have quite a bit of thread still showing when you're done on this, as well as tape showing. That's normal. Okay, right like that, that's plenty. And finally, we'll install the suction strainer on the bottom side of this wand. Right like so. Okay. There's our completed assembly. Now we'll install the tubing to connect this into the pump head. The A3 pumps typically will use our rigid black tubing. The reason for this is A3 pumps are usually responsible for injecting things like pH up, pH down, or other caustic or reactive solutions. And this tubing is designed to withstand that type of solution. You can use clear tubing like this, but it's not rated for that use, and it will discolor and eventually corrode and degrade over time. So it's best to use this rigid tubing. Even though it's a little bit harder to work with this tubing, it's going to last much longer. So we'll start by removing the tube nut on the suction fitting, and notice that the suction fitting is turning. We don't want that. So hold with the other hand and then remove the tube nut, making sure that the rest of the assembly is tight. Place the tube nut over the black tubing and press the tubing up onto the nipple like before, and finally thread the tube nut back onto the suction fitting. Okay, that's secured. Now we'll measure out a length of tubing. Again, we only need to go from here to here with our wand, but we want to leave some extra slack in the tubing so we can remove the wand from the barrel when it's time to change it out. Over the tubing. Okay. And that's ready to then be placed inside the barrel like so. All right, we've finished our tubing on the pumpers, and that concludes the installation of every part of your nutrient delivery kit. Let's go through a quick overview of what every part's responsible for.